Joint Commissioner. Subhore, who is the President of Internet and Mobile Association of India. He will spearhead the entire thing and moderate. Dinesh Agarwal, he is, we know him as the oldest .com in India, India Mart, and very, very relevant to MSME, and he has a personal interest in the MSME sector. Mr. Rajiv Nath is from NSIC, so he's part of, very well the part of the Ministry of MSME in a way. Manish is from VeriSign, you heard him in the morning. Rajesh Charia, who is from Internet ISPI, President of ISPI, he couldn't come here. Ali is a very interesting person because he has done many MSMEs himself in Hyderabad and Andhra Pradesh in terms of created many cooperatives and all that. So he works with SHGs and grassroots levels, so he knows the nitty-gritties. And Piyush will add value from the international organization's point of view. She is from UNICEF. So I'll hand over the mic to Subhore to take charge and take the proceedings forward.
Thank you, Osama. I'll follow a very simple structure for this session, is that we will start off with a round of points of view, as it were, for all the panelists. And then we'll get into a panel discussion. And then perhaps if there are questions from the audience, we'll take those questions. So if that's acceptable, I suggest that we start by asking our panelists what is the relevance of their organization or their own work towards this panel and towards making ICT's SMEs ICT enabled. So if I may request Ms. Antony to start and just say how her work or her organization's work is relevant to us, just very briefly.
Yeah. I represent United Nations Children's Fund. I work in the Hyderabad field office. The significance for this panel is that we work, as our organizational mandate is to work for the development of women and children. Poverty comes across as a major impediment in improving the quality of life of women and children that we are concerned with. And there are many efforts government is making in terms of directly promoting micro, small enterprises. And we see that in rural India, I mean, I'm talking from the states that I handle, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, any enterprise tend to be very imitative in nature in rural in India. And when an imitative thing happens, I mean, it has a killing spirit. It's a very self-nihilistic. And that is a major challenge. And the other challenge is how to have the quality and quantity to break even into the market. And these two impediments we see always. And I look forward to ICT saying that how do you address these two issues? And if you look at the open market, you see hubs flourishing everywhere. Electronic markets flourish, mechanical markets work. And how do we convert these rural areas than imitative but hubs of same services? This is where I look forward the interface of ICT. Thank you.
So we'll come back to you in a moment, yes. But then Mr.
Ali. Good afternoon. I'm Ali Asghar from Hyderabad. I have worked for the last 10, 12 years in slums in Hyderabad, primarily with the focus of on women artisans. And my approach has always been that entrepreneurship, especially at the grassroots level, and more so with amongst the artisans, is very essential to actually bring them up to the level of to be able to interact with the market. Because I've always taken a market-led approach to development. I have worked, as I said, I've worked with women artisans in Hyderabad, and we have created cooperative societies of women artisans who, with the support of with services like skill upgradation, product development, and accessing markets, where we have seen how a product that these artisans make goes through so many processes by so many different people. And I see, we have used and I've seen how ICTs can actually help to create that coordination, so that you develop a product which is of very high quality and carries very high value. The issues that basically I see that hamper the implementation of ICT with these kind of sectors is the MSME sector, the very nomenclature of the MSME sector, so micro, small and mini, and which medium, which is basically spans from an enterprise of about 50,000 to 50 crores. And there lies the problem of small, especially the micro and the small entrepreneurs, to actually be able to survive in this sector. And that is one issue. And the other issue is also these people survive on very low margins, very, very low margins. And they survive on very low margins essentially because they are in the unorganized sector. And bringing in ICTs actually helps them to get from unorganized, transit from unorganized to unorganized sector. And there are a lot of cross-sectional, cross-sectoral issues that come up, and especially with policies, with laws, with regulations and all this. So these are some of the issues that we have always grappled with. And I think those are things that need to be looked into.
So I think ours is very simple, as some of you heard earlier. I'm from VeriSign, and VeriSign essentially runs the DNS for .com, .net, and many of the top-level domains. So really for us, we'd love to see all the MSMEs get onto the internet. It's obviously to our benefit, but also more importantly, it's to their benefit. We've seen MSMEs in markets like in the rest of Asia, Japan, Korea, and even China, who've all come online and been able to generate employment and economic growth, and ultimately, add back to the GDP of the country. So we really think that's the driver for economic growth and poverty alleviation in India, and the internet is really a key enabler of that. So for us, it's very simple: is that the more of them that get educated and the more awareness there is, the easier it is for them to actually come online. As I said, it could be as easy as an email address or a business listing. It could be a whole website with a domain. It doesn't really matter. But the minute they come online, I think it's, they will all of a sudden open themselves up to a really very big interested market out there. And then they will start seeing, hopefully a lot more business inquiries and growth for their own business. And that's obviously a sustainable cycle. So that's really our interest in seeing MSMEs come online in India.
Thank you. I'm Rajiv Nath from National Small Industries Corporation. It's a company which is wholly owned by the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. So it's a Government of India company, and it is also one of the oldest. It was set up in 55 itself. But the perspective of small industries has changed over the years, because it's only in 2006 that we changed the name of the ministry to Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. Earlier it was Ministry of SSI. So the focus was on industries, not on enterprises. So it was, again in 2006, it was decided that enterprises is our core area of service, because enterprise can constitute of service industry or a manufacturing industry. Earlier the focus was on manufacturing industries only. And we have a whole gamut of services. ICT is of course also a part of that, but we don't have a focus only on ICT. But definitely we know that ICT will help MSMEs grow much faster than what they are doing currently. So our experience on ground has been that it has not been easy. Obviously to convert first 100 people to ICT, to take up that thing is much more difficult than to convert the next 100 and the next 100. So obviously the avalanche effect is there, and everybody is jumping into it and doing a good investment, and they know that this investment helps them. But otherwise, we never found MSMEs to be very computer savvy or even interested in that. So we found that when you put up a website or anything, nobody's really interested in going there and trying to leverage the power of internet and the applications and online websites to get their business done. At the same time, they were, this is what I'm saying about the last, say, 5 years back or something, they were very well versed with their mobile phones. And MSMEs in particular are very fond of flaunting high-end mobile phones. So we could have some applications which could be mobile-centric rather than only on internet or something. So this is what I feel is the ground reality. Yeah, we have all kinds of services. We till 4 or 5 years back, we used to even provide them with the finances to set up the industry, which we now don't do on our own. We tie up with the bank for that. But otherwise, setting up exhibitions, low cost and subsidized travel abroad for international exhibitions, sales, helping them in taking part in tenders, helping them in exports, training the new entrepreneurs. So all that is part of our services. So wherever ICT can help us, we are into it. In fact, we have started e-learning initiative also. So anything which expands this discussion, we'll be happy to note. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dinesh Agarwal from India Mart. I think MSMEs are the key to success of Indian economy in the next decade. What is happening is there is India is a completely two different stories, whereas one is one side of India which lives in the rural countries, rural area, children, women, lots of rural agricultural. And the other side of the India is IT, .com, software, BPO, lots of major financial markets. And lots of Reliance, Tata, some of the great brands and products which are not only making strides in India, but they are also now some of them are world's largest. Hero Honda is world's largest motorcycle manufacturer. Now MSMEs can only be the bridge between the developing India and already developed India. And that is how the development would happen in the next decade. For this, MSME would be the people who will bring more jobs to the rural India, more produce more goods for more prices for better prices for their produce from rural India, raw material, and they would be the key to distribution also. So if large products and services have to be distributed across India, it will be through MSMEs. Now, who are these MSMEs? As defined rightly by the MSME ministry, micro, small and medium enterprises, they could be anybody from an investment of 2 lakh rupees all the way up to an investment of 10 crore rupees into their plant and machinery and equipments. Now these MSMEs, in order to take the advantage of this huge opportunity that is lying, they have to utilize information, communication and technology to a great extent. If they miss this boat, they will not be able to capitalize on the opportunity that is lying ahead in the decade. For example, there could be lots of e-Chopal initiative, lots of rural initiative, where what is happening is, even if you see the Indian Railways, what is happening since the time it has been launched on internet railway reservation system, you can see kiosk or some kind of a banners even in the rural India. People are very happy now that I can get a railway ticket made nearby my home and office. So e-governance, these MSMEs will have to adopt technology which is now much more easier for adoption than ever it was. They can use technology for access to market. Lot of it, which was very heavily expensive in the earlier decade, has become mostly free. You can largely get your internet presence made out for free. So you can access to a broader market. Most of the communication part most of the mobile phone has brought down the charges. Emails are largely free. You can use Google Mail, Yahoo Mail, and so many Hotmail, Rediff Mail, which are free email. So I'm saying even the technology products, lot of technology products for MSMEs are today free than ever. If you see one of the things that got distributed very recently on your tables, free for SMEs. These are all information communication and technology tools which are now available free for SMEs. So I do understand that there are problems with respect to usage of computer, usage of internet, but that is what is happening, and it will have to happen. We are the mm, if we want to improve the rural development, if we want to do the rural development, there has to be MSME development, because these MSMEs are the link between the urban and the rural India. So MSMEs are the key to success of the next decade. If you really see evolution of Germany or evolution of China in the very recent year, the whole economy has been driven by the MSME growth. And that is what we try to do. At India Mart, we try to provide larger access to the market for MSMEs. We have been able to do it for closer to 500,000 MSMEs now, with over 10-15 years of investment of time, money, energy. But I think the benefits are now going to accrue to a larger segment of MSMEs coming forward. Thank you.
I represent Delhi government. Delhi has a unique situation. Delhi doesn't need any advertisement for an industry to come in. Rather, the Supreme Court and the master plan for Delhi over the years has been trying to make it eco-friendly. Delhi. The population is expected to touch 23 million in another 1 decade by 2021. So the government has come out with a new industrial policy by which all the MSMEs, there are 200,000 MSMEs in Delhi, all have to evolve to become knowledge-based industries. So here we are not talking about whether you should use ICT to grow up your business. Rather, the Delhi government is telling that is the only field you are allowed. Like if you look at the master plan for Delhi, there are 8 activities which are permissible for commencement of any new industrial activity. Broadly, that comes down to only 3. IT, ITES, gems and jewelry, and media. So we are trying to, we have a business facilitation council at the Industries Department of Delhi government, duly supported by MSME of Government of India, where we give about 25 lakh rupees loan if any, suppose a SSI, which is manufacturing an item which is no longer permitted in Delhi, to evolve their business strategy into coming into the permissible activity, which is by and large related to ICT. So people have started taking benefit out of it. The main problem is in Delhi there are only 22 industrial areas which are approved, and another 22 are yet to be, or in the process of being approved. But you will see many area industries are functioning in residential areas. The Supreme Court has put an end to all those industries that are functioning. So the government has developed 2 big industrial estates, one at Bhavana, the other one at Kanjavla, which are the Bhavana Industrial Estate, which is about 2,000 acres, is one of the biggest in Asia, and the government has given all the facilities to enable all the industries that are MSMEs that are located in residential areas to move into the approved area. And eventually over the next 10 years, we want them not only to adopt ICT as a tool, rather to make ICT as a major business. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think we should now start a round of some deep digging into the issue of ICT and its relationship with MSMEs. And I have a few questions to ask of the panelists, and I'll just take a round again, asking for everybody's opinion on this. If Arvind, you want to be spared, or Rajiv, you want to be spared, let me know. But I'm going to ask some simple questions that, very often when we talk about ICT and SME, we are very vague. And any businessman taking a call on what the kind of expenditure that is going to incur and what is going to be the ROI amidst many other priorities, like government clearances, this, that, and the other, unless you have a specific story to tell the SME, he's never going to adopt your, computers and things like that. So my point of view, which is very strong, is that don't try to sell them computers, internet connection, laptops, mobile phones. Try to sell them a solution that you are faced with this problem today, and this is how the ICT is going to solve your problem. So in that sense, I would like to ask the panel a simple question that, can we specify what is it that ICT can do for MSMEs before we go down and start selling them servers and, various other things? Are we clear ourselves that these are the 2-3 things that ICT can actually do to add value to a SME business? So again, Ms. Anthony, if I may start with you. That's good.
That's a very good way of looking at it. One solution that I look forward to is that when we sell a solution, the solution should be of the utility value to the client that we are catering to. One instance is that the quality of products, that's where the major impediment of micro and small enterprises, that especially women and small farmers, they make in the rural areas. And I think the supply chain is a major issue. In terms of a knowledge gap that I see, I think ICTs can pitch in terms of how do you manage a supply chain in terms of maintaining quality and quantity to break even in the market. If we are going to a knowledge base, as the Delhi person said, if it's going to be a knowledge base and that can support a value addition to MSMEs, then I think the first break-even point is that how ICTs can enable this supply chain management so that they can have quality and quantity standards that needs to be an even player in the market. And I stop here because I'll take up.
Well, as I've earlier said, I've worked mostly with artisans, so I'll stick to artisanal livelihoods and artisanal enterprises. Uh, One important use that we have put ICT for in our work with artisans has been because many of the artisanal products, as I said, go through a number of processes which are carried on by different people. And maintaining quality, maintaining the standard that a institutional buyer requires is a major hurdle there, a major task there. And we have seen how this can be smoothened out through the use of ICTs. The second area that really helps artisans and weavers, and I think DEF itself has done quite a lot of that in Chanderi, is the, using ICTs for designs. These are two major areas of work that we have used ICTs, and we think could create a large impact.
So I think I sort of agree with Subho that I don't think the intent here is to educate all the MSMEs on every single technology and how to use it and how to build your website and all of that. But if you can simply help them just do a simple business listing at a place like India Mart or Trade India, where then they can help them with standard templates on how they can showcase themselves online, maybe upload some of the product material literature. It's as simple as that. Intent, I don't think, is for them to use the internet as much, but rather to use the internet to showcase themselves to the world, so that when people are actually looking for products or looking for services, they know that these MSMEs exist. And how to reach out to them, it could be a simple phone call, it could be an SMS. I mean, all of those integrations are doable. For me, really, all of these are access mediums. I mean, the question really is, how do you connect them all to the world of the connected internet, if you may, where there are people looking for things, and and if people can find them and somehow connect to them, I think that's really the power of the internet, whether it's done through mobile or through broadband or through dial-up or through, whatever, I think is really secondary.
As far as MSMEs are concerned, as I said, our experience has been a little bit different. So let's say, again, I go back in the last 5 years, if I talk to them, it is only in the last 5 years that I've seen MSMEs really understand the value of a simple email. That an email inquiry is a valid email inquiry. You have to respond to it. A quotation sent through an email is also a valid quotation. And a purchase order sent through email is also a valid purchase order. So that was not the case earlier. So validity of all those documents, which was supposed to be earlier sent through fax or in a written medium, now that validity has been absorbed by the MSMEs in the recent years, and it is understood that if I send a purchase order through mail, it will be accepted and the consignment will be sent to me, even though, he'll not think about the payment before sending. So these are very simple issues. I'm talking only about on-ground issues. These things have changed. Another thing is, even today, I feel most of the MSMEs or even offices, not the MNCs or IT-based offices, unless they have some kind of an ERP system or where they know how to use the computers in a much more refined way, it is just a glorified typewriter they have in the front of their desks. So they use to type letters on Word, send it through mail, or do some accounting using the spreadsheet, and nothing more, or a mail, that's it. So it is nothing more than that a simple computer ought to make presentations. So it is the power of the internet or computer is not used anything beyond that. So unless, as Madam said about supply chain management and other things, unless these services are integrated maybe through some common, you can say company or some entity which takes care of this. So these people log into, now they are talking about cloud computing and other things, so they can download apps, or they can at least, all their products and their raw materials and everything is somewhere registered, so they know where their raw material is stuck or is coming and where their goods are going. So unless some kind of applications or bunch of applications, I don't know about that, unless that takes care of these things, those takes care of the whole business process of any MSME, it is difficult to go beyond a certain level. Obviously things are happening and it is much faster now, and people are quite happy that their presence is immediately noted. Something like Yellow Pages used to do long back. So when they receive an inquiry or anything out of the blue, then they know the power of having their presence online. So this is one thing where they're happy, and when they send out the quotation or whatever, then they receive a valid reply. Then again they feel the power of internet in their hands. So these are the things which are going to help them. The other issue which I also feel is important is the infrastructure available in India. Internet is not so, the broadband-based services or something are not very well available in all the places. So you have some bursts of connectivity, then you lose the connectivity. So you can't have any applications which will be heavily internet dependent. It could be just that moment in which the connectivity is there, at that time the whole transaction or whatever should take place. But again, something like your Outlook Express does. It will send the mail whenever the connectivity is on. So those are the kinds of applications we require. So that has been my experience.
Who have a very difficult time going through the newspaper ads, reading the jobs available, or how to print, how to apply for a job. But now with Naukri.com or similar kind of sites, it has taken the whole industry by storm. Similarly, if you really see, there used to be 32 pager Sunday matrimonial columns used to come in the newspaper. They have all migrated very fastly on the internet kind of technology. Because the beauty of internet, earlier the technology was you need to have a box, then you need to have a UPS, then you need to have a virus control, then you need to have. Today, with the advent of internet and mobile, you are not bothered actually. You can go to any cyber cafe and access your application, even if you don't have a computer. And cyber cafes are as cheap as rupees 10 an hour or rupees 20 an hour. So I'm saying we need to build more application and we need to educate people. We can't sit back on the fence and expect people to automatically be ready. It's like this, providing them books in English language and not teaching them English as a language. And then saying that since nobody knows English, these books are useless. We have to teach them English as a language and then say, see, this is the ABCD book, and then you can utilize this. So what I'm saying is, a lot of problem here in India because people are not going out in the market. There are people who are going out in the market. Chanderi is a very great example of that. Indian Railways is a great example of that. Just Dial is a great example, and many more. Many more. UNICEF has done it. A lot of other NGOs are doing very, very great things. E-Chopal is a great example of that. So ICT can be used for a particular purpose. Here we are discussing ICT as a raw material, but we as a stakeholder have to provide solutions, not the technology, not the ICT boxes. Information and communication are the two things which can make every business flourish like anything. Thank you.
For MSMEs, since I represent Delhi government, I would like to say that marketing. If you want to do any business with the government of Delhi, the only way is e-tendering. Every single tender of all the departments, small, medium, big, is done only through e-tendering, and the process is simple. And when we launched the program last September, first there was a lull, meaning people thought that there may not be competitiveness. We are trying to make only educated people to apply for contracts, and most of the contractors are in small scale level, and they may not participate. But being in Delhi, where we are power surplus state, and internet connection is just there with everyone, meaning even if you are not carrying your BlackBerry, you are not carrying your cell phone, you are traveling in your car, just switch on your laptop. By and large, I am sure within 1 or 2 square kilometers, you will get one internet access free, like somebody has loaded it. And without unsecure access is there. So anyone who wants to do business with the government, it is only possible through the ICT solutions, that is e-tendering. Thank you.
So, I think there's a general agreement that we should talk about solutions rather than problems and gadgets, as it were. So if you take a look from the gadget and move on to what Arvind said, there's a very important point here. The way we look at ICT and SME is that we are always trying to provide an immediate IT solution, but the IT solution might lie elsewhere. So for example, if a small entrepreneur sitting in Noida, for example, spends much less time and energy and money on filling up tenders, which normally used to take 3 days, you go and queue up, then you find that the forms are over, come back the next day, which is all money for you, in terms of your working hours. If you can go and file your income tax returns, if you can register your company, So we should be looking at different solutions which which solve various problems rather than just ICT per se. And I think e-governance kind of issues, like, booking a railway ticket or government tendering online, and income tax and other things that keep a SME occupied, which is not core business. Those things are more important in terms of ICT solution. I'll just go around and ask another critical question, that we always, the ICT people specifically, tend to blame the SMEs for resisting adoption of IT. And I don't want to take names, but Rajiv mentioned that they are very resistant to any sort of fancy stuff. They are only confining to communication and all that. I just go around asking everybody here that what is the reason for this resistance? What is the main resistance? What was the reason for this resistance?
I have to clarify my stand. I didn't say that they are resistant, because resistant in the sense, the idea is that MSMEs we consider are not too smart or something, but the thing is they are too smart and no learning curve is big enough for them if it makes business sense. ICT did not make business sense till now, till say 5 years back. It did not make business sense for them to invest in it when they are not receiving inquiries or anything. So no matter how much you educate them or whatever, unless it makes sense. Now that the connectivity has gone far beyond, I mean, the reach has increased and they know the power. Because in fact, I know many MSMEs in which, to which you can only contact through internet, through mails. There is no front desk or there is no, you can't walk into them. You have to talk to them through mail because they are not into the services which want direct customer interaction. So business sense is the main thing. If it means money, then they'll adopt it no matter how hard it is. So how hard it is to learn this thing, they won't be resistant to it. But if it does not make business sense, then obviously it is, if you keep on telling them that this is happening the world over, it does not make sense here. See, we have so many management concepts. You have just in time and all those things. It doesn't work here. Our roads are not good enough so far to make a just in time thing and other thing. So these manufacturing process, these things will not take place in India. No matter how much you teach them that this is how your supply chain management should work or something, because it does not work. What works, if it requires, and if it works because of ICT or because of anything, they are ready to adopt anything. So this is, that was the resistance earlier, and that is now what we say now they are good enough to take up everything in this field, and they are ready to take up applications and other things. They are ready to invest. Everybody has started using their own your websites, started their own websites. Even now, see, it does not make them to invest enough to use their own domain name as their mail address. So you have a website which will say something xyz.com, but it will not be some Rahul at xyz.com. It will be Rahul at yahoo.com. So he won't invest enough to use his own website domain name for his own email. Because right now it does not make business sense to him. He just wants to invest enough to get inquiries or to have his presence online, but not more than that. So unless these things make sense to them, they won't get ahead. So this is what my understanding is.
Absolutely right. It's about the value that they derive out of it. Ms. Anthony, would you like to take a dig at that resistance issue?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a supplementary information to what he actually said. I agree. The information that I want to share is that all of you know there is something called NREG, National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, and most of the workers who are the bottommost, if people who sell physical hard labor is the bottommost in the income quintile, and they all have mobile, the cheapest available form of mobile, and they really use it to know which work site they should use. I mean, very intelligently they use. Most of them can't even dial a number. They only receive calls. And that's my point is, if a business sense, if a value addition, a utility is communicated to them, they will buy it whether they can read it or just green button and red button, but they will use it. Where we fail is that selling that business sense to the micro and the small people, saying that you can make it big and this is a tool and this is the way. And that amount of simplification is something that we need to know, and that's where we need to invest as a civil society in making business sense to them in a more simplified, user-friendly manner to them.
See, the issue that I raised in my first statement, when, the problem with clubbing the micro, the small and the medium entrepreneurs together into the whole, making that complete whole sector. I think that is the issue. Because as I said, the micro and the small entrepreneurs, they are mostly in the unorganized sector. And if you look at any, mostly in the urban areas, if you look at in the urban areas, any city, they contribute almost 40 to 50% of the city's GDP. But they're all unorganized. they are subsisting on very small margins, surviving on very small margins. The ICT intervention there takes them from, as I said, from an unorganized sector to an organized sector. And there are a lot of issues with that, especially issues with law, especially issues with regulation. And unless, that's why there are cross-sectoral connections to this, if there is resistance for these people to use ICTs, then these are the issues. It's not just they don't see value, they definitely see value. That's why people have so readily adopted to mobiles. I'm doing crores of business on that. But in ICT, again, that's an issue there.
I think the only thing I'd add is that, like at least when we talk to a lot of the micro and small businesses, I think that I think they get it when you try to explain the benefit of the internet, even at the baseline level. And then education is very important. But then, like everyone says, how do I get it? And is this going to be very expensive? And then you've got a lot of these small web developers running around saying, I'll charge you 20,000 rupees for a website. I mean, that still exists. So many of them, are like, this is too expensive and I don't want to do it. When in reality, as Dinesh said, it's not that expensive and there are enough solutions out there. So I think first is the education and the benefit, but then there has to be the simplicity. And once the simplicity is communicated, and then yes, they have to see the business value, right? But it all has to happen in that format. And then as I said before, I think the connectivity piece and all to me is a parallel universe, and how they connect and how they get the leads and all of that will happen, and maybe mobile is the right way, maybe SMS, whatever. But yeah.
So you rightly pointed, so for example, MSME ministry, when there was a need for export, there was definitely, how to go to attend an international trade fair. But today, exports have been growing at 30-40% per annum for the last 4, 5, 6 years, and they are set to target 200 billion mark this year. Now there is a domestic economy which is really booming, and it needs people needs money. MSME needs support and system for domestic marketing, access to domestic markets. Though there is the ministry has a charter for MSMEs, but for domestic help, the help is either too little or the help is either too tough to get it. 15,000 rupees help for domestic marketing on an investment of X lakh rupees or X thousand rupees, and for that to happen, you have to go through multiple ways of registration, and so I think the ministry is always trying to catch up. The ministry has to invest time in educating what is going to happen next. If the internet was to happen next, the ministry has to go ahead and probably create things. So if the solutions are available, for example, websites are available for as low as 500 rupees or as low as 5,000 rupees, why is this notion that websites are expensive at 20,000 rupees? Because probably somebody is not investing money enough to educate everybody. No, there is nothing called 20,000 rupees. Everything is less than 2,000 rupees. So I think, so these small microservice providers are creating this wrong notion in the market that information solution or a marketing solution is at 20,000 rupees, whereas many other options are available at 2,000 rupees and 5,000 rupees and maybe 500 rupees also. One of the brochures is right here, which is at 5,000 rupees and 1,000 rupees, 1,500 rupees a year. But this is not known. Why is that the smaller service provider around the corner is able to propagate a 20,000 rupees or a 25,000 rupees misnomer in the market, whereas this 1,500 rupees per year is not known? Because somebody is not investing enough money into this to create that because it does not make business sense. Obviously, it will not make, education never makes a business sense. But we have been investing in education. Health never makes a business sense. Primary health never makes a business sense. But we have been investing in that because it will make a business sense once you get it to higher education level. Primary education don't make business sense. Similarly, primary ICT usages don't make business sense. Somebody has to invest money into that. And that is what I've been trying to, somebody has to invest money and resource and time to be able to explain the benefit and be able to offer a solution at the cheapest possible price.
Just to add on to the outcome of e-tendering, see, before we go to any tender, the government has a schedule of rates on which the cost is estimated. Before the e-tendering was introduced, every single department, you take Municipal Corporation of Delhi or DSI, DC or PWD, there was a cartel. Like any MSME, any new entrepreneur who wants to participate in providing some service to sell his business to the government, he has to come to the office where people may even block but even submitting the tender document in time. And they may just say, okay, we give you 5,000 rupees, you don't participate. This was happening. And every single contract before the e-tendering was introduced, if our rate is, say, 1 crore, the people will generally bid around 1 crore plus, say because the superintending engineer has the discretion to accept up to 10% plus or minus. Now after the e-tendering, I can say with authority that our accepted rate has come down by 20 to 25% because technology is a great leveler. Now there is no cartel. No one, you don't need to come to our office. You just sit any part of India and we presume whatever documents you upload are fine because if you get selected and you are unable to produce the original documents, your EMD of 5,000 or 10,000 is forfeited. So you don't want to take the chance. And we trust you. And it has worked very much in favor of the government and also in favor of small and medium entrepreneurs. Thank you.
So I think we're coming back and back to the issue of return on investment, value, perceived value or real value and things like that. I have one last question because before I ask all the panelists for at least 2 recommendations on how they want to take it forward from here. That question may sound a bit provocative to the IT company representatives here. Do you think ICT companies by and large of the previous generation have been misleading the SMEs a little bit? Whenever they ask for a glass of milk, you have offered them a full cow. They don't know what to do with it. I don't know. Manish, I'll start with you on that.
Well, I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. Probably, yeah. I mean, is that, obviously there are a lot of people who've been in the, I guess, IT space who wanted to make money. And, it's, hey, it's like when Airtel launches a new service, they don't launch it at the cheapest price. Why is the iPhone at 35,000 rupees in India? Right? I mean, so it's like there is always this type of initial hit at the rich segment of the people who are willing to pay that money for something that they probably don't need. So maybe that's true, but I don't think that's true today anymore. I think today there's sufficient solutions out there, and I think it's just a question of how do you get them to understand. And as I mentioned in my keynote, it's a complex problem because, Rajiv mentioned, all these clusters and, these various vertical industries, and it's not as easy to just, go and educate everybody instantly and then connect them instantly. So I think that's really in my mind, the big struggle today. Hopefully we're not in that mode where, well, outside of the vagabond web developers, on an average, we should be able to educate people that this is available, for much cheaper, and there are true benefits to it.
So, to answer your question honestly, yes, rightly, our initial services were neither marketed towards SMEs. India Mart is a separate, but we used to provide services to a lot of corporates because we needed to earn money to invest in the MSME ecosystem. So we went ahead and sold out website solutions for a few lakh rupees to some of the large corporates and maybe the larger manufacturing units or exporters, some of the large exporters, because we needed to make money in order to reinvest it back into a free listing system for MSMEs. So now for the product companies, this might be a little different, whereas what happens is, for example, a Microsoft or for example, Google, they would have to probably charge you 14,000 rupees for Microsoft Office because they need to invest into a free Internet Explorer. They are again a commercial company. So what is happening is the industry can be blamed because some of the MSMEs think that if this solution is suitable for corporate, why can't I do it? But the whole ecosystem is not there because the power is not there, the road is not there, the supply chain is not there, and that's why the solution fails for that MSME. MSMEs need a very custom solution, very simple solution for themselves. And he's very right. We cannot treat a micro as the same company as the medium. In fact, there has to be a rural company, rural enterprises, then micro enterprises, then small enterprises, and then medium enterprises, and then corporates. And each one of them have a completely different need. The ministry, though the ministry cannot be, we cannot have 5 different ministries, 5 different departments, but if you really see in the larger corporates which are offering services to these segments, they have divided segmentation into the very similar size, where they say that these are our retail customers, these are our emerging markets, these are our corporate or key customers. So that is what, there is a evolution of that whole thing has to happen. MSMEs, on their other hand, we need to be able to provide a cheaper service, and we need to educate, and it will take time. It will not happen, so it requires time, money and resources, all of it combined for any product to become super hit in MSME sector. Even the mobile phone was at 32 rupees a minute or a 16 rupees a minute. Today it is less than 32 paisa a minute or 16 paisa a minute. So it will have to come down because they have to sell it to some of the corporates to earn money in order to reinvest in the local sector. Even the government, if the BSNL was selling 32 rupees STD call from Delhi to Bombay, how is they different than an Airtel? If the BSNL himself was selling a 40 rupees per minute STD call or a 4 rupees per minute STD call, which is today costing only 440 paisa, and how are they different from? So the government or the ICT companies are no different. They are charging money because they need to reinvest money into the system.
I think both Dinesh and Manish have clearly avoided the question that I was asking. So I will go back to Ali and Piyush and figure out if they can give a pinpointed answer that did the IT companies in the previous generation destroy the market for ICT by selling in products and services that were quite irrelevant and they were not being able to tell a good story about ICT?
I'll be very blunt, yes. Yes, and as Manish said, a decade ago, yes, that was happening. But as the market evolved and things have changed, yes. Because I remember when I started out working with women in Hyderabad, I was very afraid to even think about installing a computer in my office. It was like a monster. And we would never get whatever we wanted out of it. So that's true. But yes, the market has evolved now. And I don't completely agree with Rajiv's argument about calls being charged at 32 per minute, and there's no comparison to what uh, the way the in information industry, the way this IT sector had developed. It was, see, when cell phone came to India, yes, the charges were pretty high. Now because of such large usage, because the way it's spread, it's come down. But the question is that whether the information industry in the initial stages, and I would say that it's the most unorganized, it was the most unorganized sector. And everyone did whatever they wanted to do. And that is one reason why many of us even today are a little skeptical about ICDs.
My answer is it is still yes. We are offering them a cow because they are not even asking for a glass of milk. They are asking for a glass of water. And I will say that because the fear of technology for the client that we are talking about is partly the fear of the world of letters. So if we know that, we all know rural India has a fear of world of letters. It's not about, and we say literacy rate is calculated by the ability to sign. But ability to sign does not take away the fear of the letters that comes on screen. So why, I mean, with all the technological advancement, why can't we create voice-enabled files for this huge chunk of population that we are talking about? And then I'll say that I completely agree, it's a very misleading information that we are reaching out. You be a part of the world of letters, then we have all solutions for you. And that is a digital divide in the MSME world. And unless we make the next step by whoever it is, whether it can be government or corporate, that we have to have voice-enabled files that will help them to do branding, help them to do marketing, help them to do maintain their quality and quantity. Simple examples like women collectives who make paper cups. They just need to put it somewhere in the, whether Just Dial or anywhere we make paper cups, whatever. Then people click and then, but they don't know how to do that because the information is not available in a format that they can accept or access. So I completely agree that we really need to simplify our own solutions and say that we believe in reaching out to MSME and there, especially like Ali said, the micro and the small. It's just an effort that we need to do at our level.
As I said, it has always been true because true that MSME, I mean, why I've been talking about these resistance or now, because the technology or the whole ICT sector, one or any new innovation which has come, it has always been a top-down approach. Because these things, if they got invented or we can say they started in US, the structure of market in US was very different from India. So while in US it was always how to pack more into a phone, here getting the basic phone was the more important thing. So always that is similarly like we for say cell phones, we followed the model like looking into the models what West did, that you take license fee and you do. Rather than the tendering should have been who will provide the calls for the cheapest rate. That person will get the circle. But that was not done. So obviously now the corporates who invest in that, they have to recover their cost. And the ICT domain, this sector itself evolved because, I mean, if we are today saying that India is an IT giant or something, it has evolved because of lack of government knowledge of the sector. Otherwise, government is very good at stymieing most of the things, but it never knew. Because while the cops were waiting for the trucks to come out of the factory to hold them, this thing used to go through the internet or through a CD, which they never found. So, and that led to the growth of the industry. So, but again, the solutions were ready. Solutions were always simply taken from the West and tried to be implanted into this social milieu, which it never worked because there the requirement was completely different. Here, even a small shopkeeper will invest in some accounting package, but not in an HR package, because here small industries or micro, small, medium enterprise, if you talk, most of them are one-man army. The same entrepreneur running here and there for everything. And then at the end of the month, he pays salaries also to the employees. So he knows the accounting package or something will make more sense right now than investing in an HR package or investing in some other materials package or putting up a separate department and all those things. But these services and these packages were always there for, they were created for multinationals or big companies which have a separate HR department, then they have a big materials department, then they have a quality assurance department, a manufacturing department. But it is not known that who is running the show here. So that is how you have to customize the solution. And as you said, you had BSNL charging so much because there again the rule was that this is the infrastructure available and this is the best way to use it. The best way to use it that you have to pay for it in the daytime, and only after 10 o'clock the rates will go down. That was the early rate. But then leverer has and companies like NSIC were set up to overcome that for the small industries. Because I know 12 years back or 15 years back, there was a queue of small and medium enterprises outside our offices because they used to use our fax free of cost to send international tenders, to participate because STD cost they couldn't bear. But they knew that this was the tender out, and we used to do all inquiring, everything we used to do on their behalf. So this is you have some infrastructure which is not available, but some other department or some other person who is helping them out in this. But I still believe that education, one is it is important that when you go to them, you be on their side rather than be on the other side. And if I talk about ICT to any small and medium enterprise, and I say a few technological words and intimidate him with my knowledge and tell him this is, you don't know, I know what is good for you. But you never know. You have to be on his side to understand what is good for him. Then only you will be able to give the correct solution in the present milieu. See, you can't change the rates of, what are the rates of the getting internet connection or a phone connection. But this is the present structure, this is where you stand, and this is the best thing which is available for you right now.